Here's the truth most business owners never hear. You don't have a lead problem, you have a pricing system problem. In today's conversation, we're going to unpack the invisible structure that determines whether your business stabilizes or stays stuck. My guest, Linda Hunt, is a money clarity catalyst who helps entrepreneurs rebuild pricing power from the inside out. I love that, Linda. If you've ever felt like you're working harder than your numbers reflect, or you hit that same ceiling month after month, this episode is going to show you exactly where the leaks might be and how to fix them. Because when your pricing system is aligned, everything else becomes easier: sales, boundaries, fulfillment, even confidence. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyon, your host, lead machine coach, and the founder of the Lead Machine Marketing Group and Mastermind. And I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream life. So whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turning your business, turn your dreams into reality. Yes, it's a tongue twister sometimes. So my guest, Linda Hunt, is a money clarity catalyst, so I love that name, and a pricing power strategist, founder of Some Solutions LLC, and she's the author of an upcoming book, The Money Conversation, releasing early in 2026. A former corporate leader and early pioneer in remote accounting services, she helps entrepreneurs anchor financial clarity, rebuild pricing power, and scale profitably without burnout or doubt. Right up my alley. Her financial clarity framework and pricing power rebuild blend financial strategy with energetic alignment, helping leaders stabilize, overflow, and multiply growth. And why this is really important, I think, it goes beyond the numbers because it's about reclaiming control and confidence in how you earn. Her approach ties together structure, mindset, and really surprisingly, the nervous system capacity, which makes a perfect fit for founders who've outgrown the hustle harder model, but still crave sustainable profit and freedom. So, Linda, one of the key pillars of my speed framework is the speed to profit, as we were talking before the show,
Yes.
making your systems work for you, not against you. So, your work really dives into that idea of structure, of creating stability. And so, let's just dive into that. Um, was there anything else did I miss anything in your bio that you wanted to add? I think it's a
No,
pretty good one.
thank you. And thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it. Talking
Yeah.
about this topic is one of my passions. And you're absolutely, I think, I don't know if we said it on the episode or prior in our earlier conversation, but this is what most business owners do not talk about. And,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I think, Paul, that's because they know something's off and they're not quite sure what it is. And the other thing I find is when it comes to pricing, they'll people will go in Google and they will look up what other people are doing as opposed and then try to mirror that and then wonder why it doesn't work for themselves. And my work focuses primarily on servicepreneurs, but if you're not a servicepreneur, the things we're going to talk about today in our conversation will apply because we are going to talk about the nervous system and where it lands in the body.
Yeah, so your work does connect the pricing systems and the nervous system. Uh,
Mhm.
Three things we don't often hear mentioned together, as I said. What do you mean by the missing system behind sustainable growth?
So we all have there's financial capital, right? So the financial capital are our
Mhm.
systems, our process, when we talk about pricing, but then there's the um, what I want to call the energetic capital, right? It's how we lead. And
Mm.
especially as a service provider, we are providing that service. So an example of that. A graphic designer, right, who is a creative person. They need to meet with their clients. They need to have meetings. They need to be able to understand and then translate those concepts. I was working with a graphic designer who was having meetings at all different times of the day because they wanted to be available for their clients. They felt as being in service, well, I have to be available. What we did with the graphic designer is I sat her back and I said, okay, when are you most creative? Right. And then we created
Mhm.
chunks of time so we built a system so that she was able to deliver. We structured her process so that she was able to deliver the quality, creative designs and system processes for her clients. She's primarily a website designer, but she also does a lot of branding in a
Hmm.
way that supported that creativity and also by bunching together her meetings in a different way, it allowed her to increase her profitability, right? It allowed her to
Mm.
make more money. So pricing, so then we took it a step further and then we structured her pricing to support that new schedule of delivery. And that was a very simple tweak for her to she ended up making, I want to say in the next 3 months, I think her bottom line increased by $5,000 for each of those the next 3 months. And then as we continued to work, she experienced more increases.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the idea of the integrating the systems. So in essence, you created some scarcity because she didn't have you can schedule with me anytime. I'm guessing maybe she's most creative way late at night or she's really creative in the morning. So you'd want to avoid having meetings during that time.
Right.
So that scarcity helps you with the pricing and also it makes you more exclusive than just being always available.
It does. And it's also it's a boundary, right? So think of it this way. So
Yeah,
yes, we're creating some scarcity. So we're creating scarcity but scarcity in a healthy way, right? Because
yeah.
the things I teach are not about scarcity and like, oh my God, I have to hurry up and sign up and get this. It's more about, so we had to deal with the graphic designer scarcity because she's like, oh my God, my clients are going to go away. So we had to deal with the underlying money stories. And this is where
Hmm.
the nervous system connection comes in. So we
Uh-huh.
had to figure out where she was feeling that in her body. So personally, I know for me that when I was having money conversation, I call them money conversation wobbles, my voice would shake, right? So like when I was uncertain about, how I was showing up or how my money story was showing up in a client relationship, my voice would wobble.
Oh,
My graphic designer went into pure panic. She's like, all my clients are going to leave. I have to be available. And she would scramble and start reaching out to all of them. So there's that. We had to deal with helping her understand where that was showing up in her body, and then kind of go down to a little bit deeper root cause of that and understand, was it about value? Was it about um, self-worth? What was the
mm,
underlying story that she was living? Because money, as we all know, money's a charged subject. And it's
mhm.
emotionally charged for so many of us. We're all living with, don't talk about money, and if we're older, don't talk about
Yeah,
money. Don't, there's never, get what you get and don't be upset. That those types of we have limiting beliefs that we don't even realize are limiting beliefs. So
yeah.
so we had to do a little bit deeper work to uncover where her story, the story was coming from. But that's why it's important to create the process, Paul, because if you create the process, we can strengthen that muscle. We give the
Mhm.
nervous system something to fall back on and then strengthen that muscle, create confidence. So that's why I'm a big believer in we have to think differently so that we can feel differently, so that we can live differently.
Yeah, I like that. Having a go-to script or a
Mm-hmm.
go-to menu of your pricing, even if it's not published, if you know what to
Correct.
say and how to offer it, that takes some of it, the
Yes.
pressure off of you and knowing that in advance. The other thing is we're worried. I'm your best client here. You're worried about because well, everything I do is custom. And so, that leaves all this wiggle room. Well, that hurts the conversation because, you know,
Yes.
my expertise and, your client's expertise is, they might have spent, years, decades learning how to do what no one else can do. in
Hmm.
the way that they do it. And so that's what you need to get paid for, is that result that you're going to give them because
Yes.
of your talent. And so
Yes.
yeah, it's you got to believe in it.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it does go deeper. It goes even deeper.
Goes deeper.
You're almost a therapist when
In a
it
way,
when
in a way.
you're a catalyst for sure, but you might be a therapist at the same time.
A little bit. What you've hit on, Paul, is what is the core of pricing, right? So pricing doesn't start with math. Pricing starts with your nervous system, but it also starts with how you deliver your service. So I heard you
Mhm.
say everything I do is custom. I guarantee you that there is a common thread in all of your services that you bring to the table for every single one of your clients.
For sure.
And then there's a
Yeah.
degree of customability,
Hmm.
customization. So what I challenge my clients to do is for us to let's create let's call it a base package, right? Or a base way in which you deliver your services, and we're going to price to that because we're going to start there and we're going to price to that
Yeah.
because couple things. As service providers, we entangle our self-worth with the services that we provide. Our self-worth has nothing to do with it. Really, our services are providing a transformation. I heard you say this for our customers, our
Yeah.
clients, and that is what our clients are paying for. They're paying for the result, they're paying for the transformation.
Yep.
If you can create a base package that offers consistent, that allows you to deliver consistent quality transformation at a base level for your client, then you can leverage off of that, right? So customized pricing might be perfect for you, but I would encourage you to have a base, the minimum, right, that you will not go below.
Yeah.
I call that the minimum. So I have a training called the Perfect Pricing Formula. It teaches the minimum aligned price. And your minimum
Hmm.
aligned price is what you need to live sustainably, right? Like live a good life, be able to pay your
Yeah.
bills and not worry about money and also sustain your business. And if you go below that minimum aligned price, you are actually paying your client to work for them. And
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
creates all other kinds of stories and issues.
Well, yeah, it creates resentment. And, you start,
Yes.
well, they're asking me to do this and they're not paying me for that. But, when I said, I agree with you, I do have, base pricing,
I'm
but
sure you do.
I'm channeling myself and my clients because
Hmm.
I hear this, well, everything we do is custom. And I have one client who everything they do is custom. So
Okay.
everything is a quote, but they have a catalog and they have base pricing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Right.
but they sometimes push back and say, well, that I can't do that because everything's, you know, custom and this and that. But there's so many excuses when it's really simple.
Hmm.
Like you said, you could have a base price.
You can have a base price, and I hear what they're saying, right? Because I get that pushback a lot myself. It's
Yeah.
custom. It's like I'm meeting the client where they are. I'm hearing that, and yes, I would just challenge them to reframe the way they're thinking about it. Because yes, it is custom, but like I said, there is a core, I don't know what a core transformation that they're coming to
Yeah.
you for. And
Right.
then you leverage or you springboard off of that. Because
Yeah. A
how
lot
else
of
would they
times.
market their company, right? How else
Right.
would they market their company?
Yeah. And a lot of times people, you almost need to sell them what they want versus what they need. And
Hmm.
so you need to give them both, I think.
Hmm. Agreed.
Because we're in the service business, we need to serve first. I think serving first is a concept I learned from one of my from several of my mentors that still is alive and well today. Not everybody is of that mindset, but I think
Right.
that they should be.
Right. I
Now,
totally agree with that.
yeah. So. I said at the top of the show that most businesses don't have a lead problem, they have a pricing system problem.
Mhm.
What are the biggest profit leaks you see
Yeah,
in how a service business they structure their offers?
great question. And that we just touched on one of them. The first one is custom everything, right?
Yeah.
So what that looks like is every client gets a slightly different version of the same service.
Hmm.
And and please, who the client that you're talking about, there is a pricing model for that, right? If that is how you are showing up in the in your industry or how you're marketing your company, you just have to make sure that your pricing structure structures to that. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but for the
Yeah.
most of the service providers who are not maybe as customizable, when they think everything is customizable, that is going to be a pricing leak. So what's actually happening is they don't have a defined delivery framework. So
Hmm.
projects expand by default, right?
Yeah.
So pricing in this instant, you want to define how you deliver your services, create a
Hmm.
framework that allows you to do that in a repeatable way, sustainably, right? So that because this this is all about not more hustle. This is all about creating ease and structuring your business. So that's one that we talked about.
Hmm.
The other one is scope creep, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
It looks like the client, like just one more quick thing, and I'll go back to my example of the graphic artist. For the longest time there, she would create, she had a branding package and she was not including the social media things, and they would want banners or they would want whatever, and it was actually creeping. She At the end of the day, she was just doing them because they were quick and easy for her, but she wasn't getting paid for it. So we now include that, put that in a package, right? Like,
Yeah.
make that as a core offer. It's some things are so obvious, but they're not obvious to you, right? Unless somebody else points it out to you.
Well, it's so easy to do. I'll just flip, but that takes you time. And time is, you value your
Yeah,
time is it's not $10 an hour work. It's
it's
hundreds of dollars
yes.
to do that kind of work.
Yes. And money is a replenishable asset. Time is not.
Time is not.
Time is not. So scope
Yeah.
creep. So what's actually happening is that's a boundary blur, right? So that's under defined delivery agreement rooted in an unclear delivery structure.
Uh-huh.
And the the service provider is the only one who can hold that boundary, right? So they have to get
Yeah.
comfortable, right? And then that then leads into some nervous systems, some stories that we might be telling ourselves. Well, it was easy for me. Yes, it's easy for you. It's not like if somebody asked me to create a social media banner, oh my gosh, I would not be able to do it, right? It is
Yeah.
not my talent. So I'm a big believer of that. It's the Dan Kennedy book that he wrote with, I can never remember the doctor's name, but it's the who, not how, right?
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
who, not
Yeah,
how.
yeah.
Yeah. All
Mhm.
right. And then another pricing leak is the delivery drift. Okay. So what that looks like is you are over supporting your clients between calls, answering extra emails, you're laughing. This is hitting a bell, or reworking deliverables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I
So
love it.
and what's actually happening there is your nervous system is chasing safety through doing. Okay. Because we don't think what we've done is enough. Right. So we're questioning
Yeah.
it, not our
Hmm.
client. We're questioning it. So
Yeah.
quick story. Recently I hired a wonderful photographer to take new photos of me. And we had gotten together back in August, and then I had an accident where I was like, I don't think I should be on camera right away. So we kind of lost touch. But when we got back together, as we were talking, she said to me, "Oh, I thought you evaporated because of my money story." Because she knew what I did, and we had
Mm.
had a conversation. And I was like, "Oh, that was so interesting to me." So I'm actually going to regroup because this just happened. I'm going to regroup with her and learn more about that because in her mind, I didn't, she didn't chase me because of her own, not, she didn't follow back up with me because it was her money story playing out, when in actuality, it was just me needing to heal from my accident before I had photos taken.
Wow. That language right there, I wonder if others are saying that same thing. Maybe not in those exact
Right.
words. She
Right.
sounds like a pretty articulate person to
She
say that.
is. Yes.
Yeah, because don't, evaporate is, I understand the word, obviously, but that's not a everyday word you use. But that concept, that's where fear, that's where the fear of missing out comes from, you
Yes.
know, is she thought she lost a slam dunk of a client,
Hmm.
went dark, but you
Right.
didn't ghost her. She had the fear that you did.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that came from her stories that she was telling herself about money, her service, whatever it is. And we did get a little bit into it yesterday, and I can tell you that the root there for her in her particular instance is allowing herself to receive, because,
Hmm.
and the reason why I know that is because she um was telling me about this great concept that she has called shot in the dark letters, where she will see something that she knows she's a fit for, and she will send a letter that says, I feel I'm a fit for this because, and then lay it out. And she got this amazing gig. So she is a resident photographer at a local amphitheater here that gets some pretty big acts. And
Hmm.
it is a dream job. She says, this is my dream job, or a dream engagement, whatever you want to call it. But so it's fascinating. She's able to receive in some respects, but when it comes to money and her pricing on an
Hmm.
individual basis, it's we all have different layers. We all have very,
Yeah.
very different layers of our money stories. But
Yeah.
let's do some. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I wanted to do some quick math because I actually want those 3 leaks to land for people.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so let's just say that you have 1 extra hour that you're working on a client per week, right? And you have 10 clients. So that's 40 unplanned hours a month, right? And at $150 an hour, that's about $6,000 that's slipping straight out of your profit, right? That's where you're
Yeah.
leaking.
Wow.
So I just kind of wanted that to land for people because, yeah, it's
Mhm.
great to talk about those in concept, but in actuality,
Like concrete. Yeah. Numbers.
concrete, yes.
Yeah.
So what,
So,
yeah, go ahead, please.
we're going to get back. We're going to continue in a moment, but first,
Mhm.
we're talking about leaks, and today's episode is brought to you by the Speed Self Audit, because pricing isn't the only system that affects your revenue, and that could be leaking. So if you're resonating with what Linda is saying, feeling stuck at the same level, or having fear of your pricing, or working harder than seeing what's in your numbers, the next place to look is your follow-up response time and lead flow. So the Speed Self Audit helps you uncover other invisible bottlenecks that steal revenue and time. Even when your pricing is solid, in under 3 minutes, you'll get a personalized report showing where leads are slipping away, how slow response is costing you, and what to fix for predictable, stable growth. So grab your free audit at getleadmachine.com/audit. So now back to Linda. I just love those numbers that you were sharing. Makes it really uh, real for people. And the
Hmm.
audit I just mentioned comes with a benchmark that tells you
Right.
um, how other service providers, if you increase your response time, there's a conversion increase also.
Hmm.
And that benchmark shows you the numbers for different kinds of service providers. That it's really shocking how 5 minutes to 10 minutes can make a big difference in your bottom line.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm gonna personally check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the nervous system. You
Hmm.
you teach that your nervous system, not your spreadsheet, sets your rates. Can you unpack? We've been unpacking that a little bit, but
We have been.
how does our capacity actually impact what we did? You know what? I think we really covered that, I think.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to mention about that, though? That's a really interesting concept.
Yeah. So let's see here. Really quickly, s- you're nervous. So it can it can show up in specific situations if you want to talk about like raising your prices or
Yeah,
or asking. It could be for asking for a raise, right? Like we don't have non-entrepreneurs here, but
yeah.
talking about money, many of us feel unsafe, right? And when I say that, you might be thinking like when I first recognized that, I said to myself, I don't feel unsafe. Like that concept was foreign to me.
Hmm.
But if it's showing up in your body, right? If you know on paper, right, you should raise your rates, like, okay, we've talked about there's 3 leaks, and I'm sure the audience is self auditing, their clients right now, and they probably said, oh yeah, I do this, I do this, I do this,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then they stop. So
Hmm.
that is when the nervous system kind of takes over. So logically, we know there's an issue, but taking the action is, uh, we're afraid of an outcome that probably won't happen because we don't
Hmm.
have a structure. So this is where, and you hit on this earlier, Paul, this is where you need to have a script. And
Yeah.
this is what my book, actually, The Money Conversation, will help people with. We go through all different kinds of scenarios. Um, but really, when it comes to raising your prices, I want you to bear this in mind when you're talking to the customer about it. Just because they hesitate or because they say no, they're not saying no to you and your service. They're saying they don't have enough clarity. They don't understand, right? I'm sorry, I merged 2 points. Um, when you have a new client and you're telling them your prices and they hesitate, that really is a signal that that client doesn't have enough clarity on the value that you're delivering. So that's why it's
Yeah.
super important to be clear on the transformation that you deliver.
Hmm.
When you're raising your prices and someone pushes back, like, I can't afford that, the process isn't for you to dim yourself down, right? It's for you to have that script in your back pocket that goes, okay, so let's take a look at maybe a lighter version of what we're currently offering for you, or
Hmm.
let's take a look at what we can do differently. So it's just about having the tools in your toolbox so that
Hmm.
you can fall back on it, because that is, I didn't really share my ugly money story, but these are all things that I've lived through and learned on how to have, just money conversations were very hard for me, how to have successful money conversations and survive in
Okay.
business.
You just opened the door.
You want my ugly money story?
Well, I think our audience might like to know at
Sure.
a maybe a 30,000 foot or a 10,000
Yeah.
foot level.
Yeah.
But sure,
Sure.
yeah, let's go there
Okay.
because you do this for a reason. Everyone
Mhm.
has an origin story, and
Yes.
it usually is rooted in some real pain, some real self-examination, and
Mhm.
which leads to self-awareness, and maybe it's a hero's journey for sure.
Right.
So. So we all
Right.
want to hear stories.
Yeah, yeah. So as you said in my bio, I was a corporate dropout, and I jumped into entrepreneurship without a plan.
Mhm.
And I was a I have an accounting background. I started one of the first remote accounting businesses that there was, and I was charging by the hour.
Mm.
And well, actually, let me back up. So, what made me leap was I was traveling 95% of the time for 4 years.
Mm.
Really quickly, I got to know my limo driver pretty well, and I started consulting with them. And the things that I was doing was really helping them restructure operations, create stable pricing, Yeah, I also cleaned up their accounting and their bookkeeping, but I was fixing all of the inputs into their financial operation systems, but I called it bookkeeping. So I was charging
Mm,
by the hour. I was charging at a rate very, very low. I did not understand the transformation that I was providing. So that's number one. Number two,
mm,
the faster I worked, because the more efficient I got, right? Because I'm very good at creating process and systems, the less money I
mhm,
made. So I had to work harder. And then the other piece of it was I didn't have any boundaries around, because I was holding myself out as a bookkeeper and not a strategist at the time, right? This is before remote accounting really became a thing. Sometimes you went into the office and a client's wife started running my schedule like I was her admin assistant. And this was
oh,
all because I didn't have process. So some months the money was there and some months it wasn't. And I resented my business. So I had to step back and really take a look at, what am I doing? How am I doing it? And get a better understanding. So it did lead me to working with my first mentor, who said to me, who helped me really understand that the transformation that I was delivering and the value, I was misnaming what I was really doing. And
mhm,
accounting and bookkeeping was a part of it. So yeah, so I'm not going to say I solved everything in 5 minutes. It probably took a good 2 to 3 years. And then I got better at it. And, even, it was funny the other day, I had an email come in. It was about a prospect. It was a colleague of a colleague who was bringing us a prospect for bookkeeping. And they said, oh, they kept it in-house because they wanted to save money. And do you know that was a trigger for me? I actually, I stopped myself before responding. I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's their story. That's not my story. And then what I did is I went and said, wonderful, would love to talk with them. Here's our process. And that's really, so for service providers, for us, it's really important for us to have, here's our process. This is how we can support you, and not transform ourselves or dim ourselves down just to get that client, because you're not meant to work with every client.
right. Yeah, nice. Now, you didn't end up in living in a van down by the river,
I did not.
but but
But
it could have, and you could have burned out for sure by doing that. So
I did.
that takes courage to change that, and it's tough to do that because what you do, like you said earlier, there's safety in doing,
Mhm.
and sometimes we have to work on our business and not in our business,
Correct.
and that's what you did. So
Correct.
applaud
Yes.
applaud you for that.
Thank you.
So when someone starts to rebuild their pricing structure using that perfect pricing formula, what are
Mhm.
the first signs that they're moving from hustle to stability? So this ties right into your
Ah.
st-
So the first sign that they're moving into stability is that there is enough money to pay themselves consistently every month, and there's also money in the business to pay the business bills. Plus, we build in a little overflow for that so that they can look at opportunities, like maybe to hire a coach to help themselves grow, or to invest in, I don't know, some kind of ads or something. So it's having that consistent revenue, right? So that's number
Mhm,
one. And usually when they start with calculating their minimum aligned price, that is the first step that I recommend, because that minimum aligned price gives them the revenue, the stable revenue. The next step is then breaking the time for money loop, right? So it's creating the packages, it's packaging their offers where they truly understand their transformation,
mhm,
so that, because your minimum line price is your floor. You don't want to charge below your floor. It doesn't mean that's the price you're going to charge, because now there's value, right? There's intrinsic value to the unique way that you're providing your services. So then we work on their packages. And then the third step is we fully align their service delivery, where we're creating efficiencies and maybe even automations, right? There might be
mhm.
some ways to automate. Um, but usually And then intersprinkled in there, they're also gaining confidence because they're able to have confident money conversations.
Yeah.
So we work on the nervous system all throughout all of this.
Yeah, and this kind of dovetails into that. You say getting paid is a system, not a
Hmm.
suggestion. So what does that look like beyond the base? I think you kind of tied into it. Maybe you can tell us
Sure.
how you can what's your process for packaging offers? That's a good question there.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So getting paid as a system, so that refers more to the mechanics of like, making it easy for a client to pay you, your invoice terms, all of you set that up once and you're good to go.
Yeah.
How you create your packages is, and depending on the service provider, right? Depending on the industry that you're in, um, for the accounting services, I'm gonna share with everyone exactly what I did, and this applies to many service provider industries. This is what I did to help myself build confidence. One of the things, there's always like when you're inheriting an accounting file from someone else, there's all kinds of things that need to be unraveled, fixed, and corrected so that you can address the issues of the business owner that they're complaining about. So the first thing I did was I offer a baseline audit, right? Which was a paid for service, which they would turn around and get a report for. That allowed me to scope out the pricing for the next set of services, which was, let's just say, cleaning up the accounting file, maybe adding some automation or whatever that is. And then that phase allowed me to really refine systems that allowed me to then work with the client on an ongoing support basis. So if you take those three concepts, right, and
Hmm.
you apply that to any service provider, a graphic designer, they can do a baseline audit of someone's branding, right? Then they could scope out the next set of services, and then they can offer maybe some kind of ongoing social. I'm making this up as I go, but ongoing social media. But that's a
Yeah.
way to create prices in a way that allows you to um, get paid truly for the transformation that you're providing to your customer. And it also allows you, that baseline audit allows you to really learn to interview the client because you want to make sure they're a match, just as much a match for you as you are for them. And
Hmm.
just that baseline audit taught me so much because I could now tell you in a conversation, a free consultant within 10 minutes, whether that client's going to be right, like we're going to be a match for them. And we might not
Hmm.
be. So, but
Yeah.
those three things I think can be applied to any service business.
I love the idea of it of the baseline audit. And one of the things that occurs to me, I'm kind of a systems guy too. Uh, when you structure your audit in a way that kind of exposes the services that you provide,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and that's how and you might have more than one audit. You know,
Correct.
you have an audit for you like you said for the graphics designer, the branding, the social media, social media is a big thing,
Oh,
a big
huge, huge.
there's a lot of components to it. There's engagement, there's ads, there's posting schedules, there's all those things.
Mhm.
Uh, and there's listening, there's social listening, just to protect your brand. It just goes so deep, so quick.
Yes.
So you could have multiple audits to help you um, around each of your service offerings, even
Hmm.
so
Yes.
that you could help that could it could help you scope out the and
Right.
this is I'm just getting this idea from you right now. It's
That's
just a
okay.
really great day. It's a great idea.
And you want to charge for it because when
Yeah.
you charge for it, and you don't make it a high hurdle, but what I personally do, and this might work for you, is if they walk away and we don't work with them, we've gotten paid, they've gotten a report, boom. But if they end up going to the next set of services with us, I provide a partial credit of that audit into the next group of services. And that's everyone's choice. They can decide to do that or not.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like the furniture store or the carpet cleaner who offers to do your sofa for free, and then they come they or for $50, and they come to your house and they've got all their equipment. He says, well, we got a
We're
special
here.
running to, we're here. We might as well do, give you a great deal on doing your rooms. So it's kind of
Exactly.
like that.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like that. Exactly.
Yeah. Um, you describe pricing as leadership. So what shift of mindset is a business owner that when they start start leading their pricing and their business with authority instead of anxiety?
Right. So that's a great question. And I I believe it's leadership because you're aligning and you're honoring your own boundaries, right, with your service
Mhm.
delivery. And you're actually, this is so interesting, asking that question that way, because you actually brought me back to where I wobbled, right? I
Mhm.
was because I had a scarcity story running that if I asked for what I needed with my clients, which was to get paid a certain amount and to provide our accounting services in a certain way, no one was going to work with me. So I had this scarcity story running through,
Mhm. Mhm.
and leadership required me, right? I was either my choice was go back and get a job, corporate job, and not be happy, or create a business that allowed me to have the freedom that I was looking for. So self leadership is creating the process, stating your prices, or creating your pricing, and then stating that and holding your ground, right? And then leveraging from there. For me, it started with just getting the confidence to continue on that path. But leadership, I call it sovereignty. It's self leadership. It's
Mhm.
getting that, for me, at the crux of it, and the way I talk about it is getting the confidence to own, be unapologetic about it. This is the transformation I provide, and this is how we do it. Not
Yeah.
arrogantly, but you want to work with us? We would love to work with you if we're a match. And it's just being able to state it with that type of confidence. Like, I am so rooted now in how I know I can help people with their pricing, and how I can help people framework their service delivery, on how we do accounting services. And I wasn't that confident at the beginning, but that is the self leadership. It's like, own your own the transformation that you deliver to your clients. Believe in it yourself.
Yeah, and this is what you went through when you wobbled. This is what you
Absolutely.
went through, and you came through it. You made a self leadership decision
Hmm.
that is hard to make. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to make some hard decisions. And
Hmm.
those decisions, although they may be difficult at the time, and there may be a dip at the time,
Yes,
they end up being better than you expected.
that is correct. And you said
Yeah.
it. There can be a dip, and then that dip can put you back into panic, and you can think like, oh my goodness, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Stick with it. Stick with it. Yeah. Because you
Yeah.
do come out on the other side.
Yep. It's temporary.
Temporary.
So, well, thank you so much. Before we go, there's a couple more things as we wrap up. What are three things ideas or actions that our listeners can take today
Hmm.
to put these ideas into action? Because these are some really solid ideas, I think.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Three things they can do is, one, audit your offers right now. Kind of take
Mhm.
those three things that we talked about, scope creep, um, where are you over delivering?
Yeah.
Look at your offers and say, just do a quick audit and see where you can maybe tighten up one thing. Okay. And then that becomes your boundary. So you want to implement one boundary, right? And if it is scope creep, if it is something that you're including, let's just say, like the graphic designer, she was always doing the social media banners for free. Add that to your package. Just create that one. It's that simple. And then the other thing is, track your emotional cues as you're doing this, right? Where does
Mhm.
it feel in your body? Where are you feeling it? And a couple quick nervous system. a quick nervous system thing is you can take your hands when you're feeling uncertain and you just do this little butterfly. I don't know if people can see me, but you do this little butterfly technique. You cross your hands over your heart
Oh,
and you just do this. And it actually helps you go into your body, plant your feet on the ground and just do
mhm.
this. And, it helps you go into your body. It helps you to tell your body that you are safe because our body is
Mm.
going into flight or fright. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some great books and teaching about there's the peace process that Christian Michelson teaches
yeah.
about feeling the feeling. There's a book called I think Love the Feeling or Feel the Feeling,
Yes.
something like that. I forget the author's name, but
Hmm.
that's you instead of trying to get rid of that feeling, you love the
Right.
feeling and you send that feeling love and you let it dissipate. You just let it live and wherever it
Yes,
moves in your body, when you think about this thing, eventually it'll go away.
it will.
And the thing is that it's not like therapy where you have to relive the experience. You just
Correct.
you can bring the feeling up and deal with it. So
Yes.
that's great. So you also have a free guide called the Perfect Pricing Formula. It's a video or a guide. I forget which one it is.
So it
Tell
is
us about that.
it's a free video training. It's about a 15-minute video. It also has a companion workbook. It walks everyone exactly through how to calculate their minimum aligned price
Mm,
from start to finish. And I have to say, I've gotten some good feedback on it. People really appreciate where it took them, and it gives them the insight it gives them the insight, but it also gives you that price that you actually need to live well and sustain your business. So I hope someone will check that out. You can get that over at sumsolutions.com, SUMSOLUTIONS.com.
yep. And you can find this in the show notes also. And yeah, before we go, how can people connect with you also at Some Solutions or can they
Yes.
get you on LinkedIn also?
Yes, they can. So you can come if you're interested in speaking with me, you can book a financial clarity consult. You can do that through the website, or you can reach out to me through LinkedIn. It's I believe it's lindahunt.com.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
So thank you again. Remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyon and Linda Hunt. Thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyon, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.